been disastrous. And as somebody born and raised in Dallas, y'all know I don't necessarily rep the Cowboys as much as you would like, but I do rep the Dallas Mavericks. I was there when they finally won that first championship in 2011, beating George Taylor's Miami Heat. So I really rock with Dallas, and this hurts me to see. Slick, I need you to break this down. This Mavericks collapse. You've covered the NBA for a mighty long time, one of the most knowledgeable people of the sport. Who do you blame? What is to blame? What is the issue with the Mavericks?
I have to go to the top. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, and maybe I'll add Nico Harrison, the GM, in there, because at least because of his previous relationship with Kyrie Irving from having been a Nike executive, he was part of the impetus to go get Kyrie and make this work. But the problem is that it has been presented as this idea of we're putting two superstars together. We're finally going to give Luka the superstar co-star that he has long needed. And we're going to go get Kyrie Irving. Best player he's ever played with, arguably. So, obviously, they were in the 5th, 6th seed. Well, they're only going to go up. But it didn't take into account what they gave up to get him. And that it wasn't just a matter of we're trying to add a superstar piece to this. They gave up arguably their best defensive player, certainly on the perimeter, in Dorian Finney-Smith. And while Shady disagrees with Spencer Dinwiddie and his effort at the defensive end, he gave you an effort at the defensive end.
Which is more than...
And it's more than Kyrie. We could pull out the highlights of this last game against Charlotte when they hit the three that kind of sealed the game. Kyrie standing under the basket. There was one guy who needed to jet out and challenge that and contest that shot. It was Kyrie Irving. I've seen that far too much with the Dallas Mavericks. So ultimately, this was presented as this idea that they were going to get better. But I look at the numbers, and the fact is, it saved them a ton of money. Dorian Finney-Smith and Nico and Spencer Dinwiddie were guaranteed through next year. And Dorian Finney-Smith goes out like 3 years. And so this gives them the opportunity. Mark Cuban has always been looked at as I'm trying to build, championship teams. He's also had an eye at the bottom line. And I see this as much a money-saving opportunity with the idea that, hey, we're going to keep Luka happy and we're going to save money. That's a far cry from the idea of we're trying to build a team that's going to be better than the one that went to the conference finals.
Slick, you mentioned the name Kyrie Irving a lot without putting the blame on Kyrie Irving, which I find fascinating. You mentioned Nico Harris, active GM. You mentioned Mark Cuban. You mentioned Luka. You mentioned Dinwiddie. You mentioned Finney-Smith. You mentioned Kristaps. You mentioned a lot of names. You also mentioned Kyrie. But you didn't blame Kyrie. To me, I don't know, Shady, how you can look at the Mavericks with Luka being 28 and 21, how you can look at Luka and Kyrie being 3 and 8, and not say to yourself what part of either Kyrie's presence or the absence of Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith is to blame. That's where I'm at, 2-5. When I think, wait, they were 28 and 21 with just Luka, 3 and 1 with just Kyrie, but the combination of 3 and 8, my math, my math ain't working.
I see where you going.
Please take me where you want me to go then, 2-5. Who do you blame?
I blame injuries. I blame timing, right? Just when they start connecting, right, Kyrie and Luka, one gets hurt. Then the other one gets hurt. Now the time to play together is not there. So how can we build a real team? How can we build a real bond? How can I know your sweet spots? How can I know when you want the ball? When soon we get ready to play together, he gets hurt. Oh, then he gets hurt. He missed 5 games. He missed 8 games. So I blame more just the timing, and I blame it on injuries, because not only playing with Kyrie or Luka is the big issue. What about the role players, right? What about somebody like Hardaway in the corner to hit the tray ball? I got to know where I need to be at. They play with Luka. They know where he wants to be. Now when Kyrie in the picture, when him dominating the ball a little bit, it takes the part of the game away as far as knowing my teammates. And that's in all sports, so especially in basketball. So I think that's the biggest issue.
I think it's expectations. This was always going to take time. I didn't buy in that this trade made them championship contenders. I didn't think this was a championship team before Kyrie got there. You had to do it. You had to go get Kyrie. There's only so many Kyries available. But you gave up a lot on the defensive end, which is just the facts. You did, and you didn't replace that. And there's two sides of the ball. We focus a lot on stars. We focus a lot on scoring, as we should. If you score more points than the other team, you win the game. But you also have to stop the other team from scoring those points so that they don't score more points than you. That's called defense. And we don't like to focus on that, and we don't talk about it, and it's not sexy, I understand, but it does play a role in playing at a high level. This team is not built to win a championship. It's just not. It's fun. It's exciting, and it's got 2 stars, but it's not in the championship space right now. And part of that is the depth, the role players, and you have to find a way to have stars, but have role players that fit with the stars.
Yeah.
And to make all that work, it takes time, which none of us want to give. It's not fun.
I do.
It's not fun.
I'll give it another year or two.
I agree with you. I don't think that they're ready right now, but I didn't think they were ready before this. And the problem is defense. So that's why I actually don't blame Kyrie. I blame the expectations. I blame us getting excited. I blame Twitter. I blame the stars, the shiny, the lights, Dallas, Cuban. It's exciting, but it's not real.
Then let me suggest this then, because now I'm thinking, if we're not going to blame Kyrie, which is fair, and we're not going to blame Luka, which is fair.
That's right.
And we want to blame defense, but neither Kyrie nor Luka play defense. So as Joy was talking, I was thinking, I'll be listening. I'm an active listener. When you think about the teams that have won chips over the last decade, the majority, not the majority, at least portions of their starting lineup are dedicated to defense.
Yeah.
Whether you want to talk about the Golden State Warriors.
Let's talk about them.
Draymond,
Yeah.
You know, Draymond, he be starting. He is there. He don't even want to take layups. But let's go before that. Let's go to Giannis. You know Giannis was going to play defense.
Yeah.
Let's go before that. Let's go to the Raptors. You know Kawhi was going to play defense.
Right.
Let's go before that. You know LeBron James back when he was Miami, Cleveland, and even when the Cavs were actually going, but the Warriors were winning, you still had Klay Thompson, pre-Achilles, pre-ACL Klay, one of the best two-way players at the time, plus Draymond. So if you look in the last decade of basketball, at the point in which you're going to trot out Kyrie and Luka, and neither of them play defense, I think our argument argues against itself by not blaming either of them, but blaming defense when neither of them play defense.
But they don't put the team together.
Thank
They're
you.
not that's not their responsibility.
Smart
And these
girl
are
right there.
these are seasoned players. We know what they are. Luka can develop a little bit more, maybe change his game a little bit. He's still very young, but we know what Kyrie is as a player. And for the most part, we have a good bit of data on Luka too and how he plays.
But Joy, can you have it both ways? Let's go here for the last 2 minutes of this conversation. Can you have it both ways in this? The Mavericks are desperately saying Luka needs a number 2. They said that before Kyrie showed up. They gave him Kristaps. It wasn't the same Kristaps. Coming off an ACL injury, if I'm not mistaken, 2018, 2019. So the Mavericks, they get him Luka, Kyrie. But unless his number 2 is going to play defense, or unless he's going to play defense, then pick one. Either Luka, we're going to give you a bunch of great defensive players. We're going to give you some Rudy Goberts. We're going to put some Goberts out there. Or we're going to give you a number 2 who might not play defense. But Slick, I don't like arguments that are unfair innately.
Okay. But again, and by the way, you should go to Panama on a regular basis because your game is on point. I don't know what you got back there, but again, that's why I put it on, and I like the idea of expectations because when they got Kyrie, they didn't try to hold the horses and say, hey, like, look, we got more talent, but it's going to take time to put this complete package together.
Right.
They didn't do that. It was like, we got Kyrie, hey, watch out. We got Kyrie and we got Luka. Again, that's Mark Cuban and making the decision that they are going to get all this offensive power that's not necessarily going to win you games.
So you wouldn't have
at a
made the trade, Slick? Don't do this now. Don't do this now.
I want
a
to
month
jump in there
later.
with Slick.
You're going to tell me you wouldn't have made the trade? Joyce told me earlier there's only one Kyrie. And I'm giving away Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith to get. So what? Don't applaud Mark Cuban then, but now try to chastise him now.
But I did not think it was a good trade then, and I did not think it was going to make them better. Okay. Now, if this is the pathway to taking the cap space, either re-signing Kyrie and then building a team around these two, okay, I'm good with that. Or if it's if Kyrie doesn't re-sign, and we're going to take that cap space and we're going to find those defensive pieces that's going to make Luka better, I'm good with all of that. But I did not think that getting Kyrie for what it was going to cost them in the moment was going to make them a better team right now.
And that's the thing, though, like you said about the defense and offense. Like, you need stars first, and then you find role players that play defense. You name all them championship teams. If you go with the Warriors, right, we got Steph Curry, my favorite player. He's not like known for the
play no
defense.
defense.
He effort, but not known for defense. You get Gary Payton Jr. plays super defense, not a starter. You had Andrew Wiggins playing defense, starter, and then you had Draymond. So you got the defensive players. Every team has it. The defensive monsters. You got the superstar offensive players. That's what DNA of championship is.
But my thought process is this. The one or the two in the last decade, the best player or the second best player on the team, one of them played defense. It was Klay Thompson.
Go to the, so for Warriors.
Clay. Like, pre-injury Clay, Clay was locking boys up.
But the last championship run, right, which was last year.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I thought Clay was solid, but he wasn't the old.
It wasn't. It was Wiggins.
You could say Wiggins might be the second best player.
It was Wiggins. The second best player on the team. Remember last year? They were saying, Wiggins might win MVP.
But what I'm saying is that, like, if you have a defensive presence, that's all you really need. I don't know if it's the first or the second best player on the team. As long as you have a defensive guy, you're the best player, you got Tatum, put Andrew Wiggins on Tatum. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to have a defensive presence. So you need the scoring. If the Warriors don't win that series against the Celtics, if they can't score.
Right.
You know who that guy was last year?
Who's that?
The Dallas Mavericks. You know why they ended up in the conference finals? It was Dorian Finney-Smith.
I don't know if he's D'ing up like Andrew Wiggins, but he's cool.
He was.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.